32 subscribers, and welcome back to another unit review. If you aren't subbed already, please do, because these unit reviews are actually kind of time consuming to make. I'd really appreciate it. To all my commenters, thanks for letting me know that people are actually watching these videos and it's not just a bunch of bots. I really appreciate everything you guys say. And with all that said, let's get into the video. Catman is what I like to call a legacy Uber. He came out in 2015 and has remained basically unchanged since then. Except he got a pretty bad true form in 2018, but I'll talk about that later in the video. Like all the Dark Hero banner Ubers, Catman has slightly different abilities in each form. Each form has identical stats, so which form you use is purely based on what ability you want to use. Catman's first form deals massive damage to floating enemies and aliens. His second form does massive damage to aliens and angels, and his third form does massive damage to relics and aliens, as well as having curse immune. His abilities paint him out to be a nuker, and that's what he is. So, doing the math, Catman has 13.7k to 18.3k DPS towards his targets, depending on how many treasures you have against each trait. This is a very good number, especially considering that he can now be used against 4 different traits. Even though Catman isn't the strongest nuker individually towards any one trait, being outclassed by Queen Rika toward alien, Jizzo toward angel, Windy toward floating, and his relic type just sucks, his versatility makes up for it, and the number alone is still impressive. Normally the ability segment would be longer, but this is Catman's only ability, massive damage, with each form having a different target, so let's go on to his stats instead. First, his survivability. Catman has 67k HP, with 5k beat count and 12 speed. His fast speed is enough for him to get to the front line in time, but it's not high enough for him to clip into the enemy, so his speed is really good. He's also pretty tanky, and he has a good amount of HP and a good amount of knockbacks, which means his survivability is very good. Next, his attacking capability. Catman has 4.6k DPS with 440 range. By today's standards, this number is pretty bad and below average, and it's about the same as pre-true form Uber runs. When he was first introduced though, he was one of the best Ubers in the game, and this was a very good number, but unfortunately power creep has made Catman seem weak, and you'll need to boost him if you want to use him for generalist purposes. Finally, his deployability. Catman comes with a hefty cost of 5,520 monies, and a pretty iffy 2.5 minute cooldown. If we pull up the page with the other nukers again, we can see that they all have lower cooldown and cheaper cost than Catman, as well as having higher DPS. So in terms of deployability, he's a little too expensive for what he is, and his cooldown's a little too long, but he's still usable. Now to his pros and cons. Catman has the advantages of good survivability, being usable before true form unlike many units in this game, good speed, strong abilities. Now before we go to the cons list, I'm going to say what's wrong with this true form first. So the main problem with Catman's true form is the extremely bad compatibility against relics. Catman has almost no use against any relic enemies in the game, as all the serious threats outrange him. The only ones he's usable against are Emost, Oldhorn, Relic Bun, and the Peons. Even these targets, Catman isn't super good against, and doesn't really counter on these enemies specifically. He just deals extra damage to them, and it usually doesn't really help that much compared to just spamming Drama Cats. Not to mention the fact that it costs 2 Relic Cat Fruit to evolve this guy, so when you're looking like just a worse version of Drama Cats, you're really not worth it, and I highly suggest not getting this true form, and I personally don't have it. Anyway, now to its cons. Bad true form, low DPS, high cost and high cooldown, as well as longish force swing that makes him miss quite often. Alright, finally, the rankings. In early game, Catman's extremely good because you can use him before true form, and he completely destroys Into the Future with his alien targeting, as well as Bun Bun and other flying enemies with his floating targeting. Mid-game, Catman is still pretty good if you haven't finished Into the Future yet, and he's still useful in Cats of the Cosmos, but not as overpowered because the restrictions, so you can't use him all the time. Also, his anti-angel targeting can be used in SOL and to bully the Sleipnir in the Yellow Cat Fruit stage. Unfortunately, in late game, Catman really loses his spark. His relic targeting sucks, there's barely any aliens anymore, and his floating and angel niches aren't as necessary because at this point you probably have a boosted Ramen, talented Sanzo, Fishman, and any other Ubers you've collected that probably outclass him. I'm not saying that his niches stop working, it's more just that they get outclassed by other units, but if you find a stage with his targets in it, he'll still be useful, it's just that these moments are less common, and you really just have less times you can use him. Finally, for a specialist rating. Catman gets a B in this category because his ability is effective effective, and he can easily nuke a lot of enemies. It's just that he's not as good at nuking as a lot of other Ubers in the game, and his ability eventually falls off in usage. So to conclude, in early to mid game, Catman is a pretty hot commodity, but as you get more Ubers and you get later in the game, he becomes less and less useful. I don't think he's a bad Uber at all. I think he's fantastic in early game and mid game. It's just sad that he's been power crept so hard, and you get less usage from his typings, and his true form is just, they really ruined it. Like, Panos, could you not have given him like 10 more range so you could at least use him against that moth enemy? His stats are just outdated, especially in UO. But yeah, that's about it about Catman. Great early to mid game usage, but late game he's pretty unhelpful, sadly. Alright, so that wraps up the review. If you've watched this far, thank you. Please leave a like, maybe a comment, and give some feedback. Agree, disagree, or what units you want next. Unfortunately, I probably won't post another review until next month because I'm going on vacation for a while, so I don't have access to Shotcut to edit all these videos. But if I somehow hit like a sub boom, I'll make another video on Monday, but I doubt that'll happen. So, thanks for watching. Sorry, I don't really edit these outros at all. I just do it in one cut because I'm tired. I've been editing for like 4 hours. I know that sounds like a lot, but these videos seriously take a while to make. Like, you wouldn't believe it. You try making one and you'll see. Anyway, I like making these reviews. It just takes a lot of time to get them done, and that kind of sucks, especially when not that many people see them. And again, to those few who watch this far, and to the few who, you know, like and comment and just everything, and the few people who are actually subbed, I thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. And sorry, I'm kind of rambling again. I do this all in one take, but yeah, it's just nice to know that people are watching and people like the videos. So yeah, that's kind of it. I'm about to get ready to export this soon. I've kind of keyframed everything, like, you know, the intro where the unit just destroys the stat bar and all that stuff. I finished most of the basic gang like that, and just the keyframes of like the text swooping in, and I've cut out like all the bad voiceovers. I've cut out all the empty space where I often talk, and I do that where I leave a little space in between each sentence while I breathe. So if I just left it like that, like I'm doing right now, the videos would sound pretty terrible, but it is a little bit torturous to snip through each little, you know, empty space. So that's why I'm leaving this just raw. Yeah, and if you sat through all of that just random ranting and stuff, thanks. And yeah, see ya. Have a good day, and I love y'all. See ya!